Hello and welcome everybody to our Jira Service Management for ITSM webinar. We're so glad you're able to join us today for this overview of how to manage your ITSM processes within Jira Service Management. I'm Brad Wood, and with me is Rachel O'Neil. We are both with Valiantys, a platinum solutions partner of Atlassian. And today we are both going to walk you through Jira Service Management, highlighting its strengths, its capabilities, its features related to your ITSM processes. And we'll have some demos and we'll get into the tool and all that here in just a little bit. Our agenda today is very simple. We're going to do a quick intro, then we're going to jump into 3 ITSM demos and examples. We'll start with request management, service request management. We'll get into incident management and change management. And if we have time, we'll wrap up with a little bit of Q&A. And speaking of Q&A, if you have questions while we are presenting, please put them in the chat and one of us will answer them to the best of our ability. And if we don't have time to answer them during the presentation and we have time at the end of the webinar, we will answer them live. So just a quick note about this webinar. It's really a companion to our Jira Service Management Fundamentals webinar, which we hold several times throughout the year. And the last one was just a couple weeks ago. If you were able to join us for that webinar, I hope you got some great fundamental knowledge of JSM. And if you weren't able to join it, it's posted on our Valiantys in North America YouTube channel. And this webinar will be posted there as well. If you want to watch these again or watch that fundamentals webinar. This presentation today is a little bit more advanced than that fundamentals webinar. And like I said, is going to focus on the ITSM feature set within JSM. These webinars really go hand in hand to paint that complete picture of the powerful features that are available within JSM. For this presentation, it is helpful to have the basic understanding of JSM. But it's not required. I think you're going to be able to follow along pretty easily if you've never seen the tool, never worked in the tool. We will make sure you're able to follow along with this content. Some of the content in that fundamentals webinar include the features provided through a project type, the difference between agents and customers, are the customer-facing portal. You'll see that again today. Queues, we're going to talk about those again today. SLAs, the knowledge base, and a little bit of automation. So it covers a lot of good stuff. And again, if you want to check that out, it is posted on our YouTube page, or you can go to our valiantys.com/training page and sign up for the next fundamentals webinar if you'd like to join it. So let's run through some of the applications that are going to be used today in order to showcase the full range of ITSM capabilities in JSM. Some of this terminology on this slide is a little bit outdated. You'll hear me use some other terminology, but I'll explain that in just a second. We're going to talk about Assets, which is JSM's asset and configuration management tool. Assets is native to JSM. It's not an add-on. And it comes, I believe, with the premium tier and higher in Jira Service Management. Opsgenie is now known as Operations or Alerts. This is JSM's alert and incident management system. It is native with JSM Premium. I'm not sure if it's included in Data Center anymore, if it's a separate product, but it is definitely available in the cloud. Opsgenie itself is in the process of being retired, and they've rolled all of that functionality directly into JSM, which is really, really great and makes managing your alerts and cuts down on the context switching, which is really great. We're going to talk about automation a lot today. That is native to Jira. The only difference between the tiers is the number of allotted rule executions you have per month, but automation is included in both cloud and data center. We'll touch on Statuspage a little bit too, which is a completely separate product, not included in any tier of JSM, and is an internal and external communication solution. We'll see an example of that towards the end of the webinar, and Atlassian themselves actually use Statuspage to communicate updates to their products in their ecosystem. So if you want to sign up for their alerts from Statuspage and their updates, you can certainly do that. So like I mentioned, we're going to have 3 different demos today. Rachel's going to walk us through service management. We'll touch a little bit on assets and the way that the service management projects are configured and some of the features within those. We're going to then move on to incident management. So we will talk a little bit about problem management within that, a little bit about post-incident reviews, but we'll see how we can manage an incident and how it can link up to other things that might be going on in our JSM instance and connecting the dots to help us solve our incidents as quickly and efficiently as possible. The last demo is going to be change management. So we'll see how JSM manages changes within your organization, giving you insights into effects or risks of enacting changes, and helping you make informed decisions related to changes. And so those are going to be our 3 demos. Before we jump into the tool, really quickly, just about us at Valiantys. Like I mentioned, we're a Platinum Solutions partner of Atlassian. We provide a number of services around Atlassian products. We're 100% dedicated to the Atlassian ecosystem. We've been the Atlassian Partner of the Year 13 times. We've worked with 65 of the global Fortune 500 companies. And we also have a full stack development center that creates custom solutions for Atlassian tools, connecting Atlassian tools to other products you might have, and so on and so forth. We're Atlassian's first global partner, and we provide 24/7 global coverage with over 600 team members. And then some of the services we provide, consulting, licensing, integration and development, managed services, and training, just to name a few. And speaking of training, one of the training offerings we offer related to JSM in particular, but we offer this for other Atlassian products as well, is our JSM Bootcamp. This is designed for administrators and service desk managers. This is a 2-day deep dive course on JSM, giving you all of the tools and knowledge you need to stand up your JSM projects and administer them effectively. These boot camps are focused on retention and are interactive workshops designed to leave you confident in your understanding and use of the tools and processes. And this course does go into assets, operations, and Statuspage in a little bit more detail than we're able to do in this webinar. I believe Kristen put some information in the chat about when the next one is coming up, or scan this QR code to go to our training page, and you can read all the details about that boot camp, and we would love to see you at one of those coming up soon. All right, so this slide just kind of goes through asset and service management, which Rachel is going to talk us through. I'll just really briefly, the challenge that we see a lot of organizations facing related to their service management is how do we easily track and manage assets as well as services and service requests related to those assets. The solution that we're recommending, of course, is JSM, which provides you an easy to maintain assets database that seamlessly integrates with our ticketing system. We'll see all that here in just a second. And the tools we're going to cover include, but are not limited to, JSM assets and automation. And I'm going to stop sharing now, and I'm going to pass it over to Rachel, and she is going to walk us through our service management demo.
Thank you so much, Brad. Welcome, everybody. Give me 1 second, and you should be able to see my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're here to talk about service request management, but let's back it up just a little bit. What is service management? So the structured answer is it is a structured approach to designing, delivering, managing, and improving the way organizations provide services to their customers, whether they're internal like employees or external like clients or users. In more simple terms, service management is how teams ensure people get the support or services they need in a reliable, efficient, and consistent way. Consistency is very important, and it's important for our users, whether they be internal or external, to have a process that they can follow over and over again that's simple, easy, effective, and gets them what they need so that they're happy and they can return to doing the things that they were doing previously. like developing code for faster time to market features, or using more of your products if they're an external user. So service management is very important, and it gives a really good impression if they get service quickly, easily, and effectively. So let's talk about a couple of things here. Within Jira Service Management, there are quite a few different feature-rich areas that we can talk through. The first being the customer portal experience, and you'll get more of that during the JSM Fundamentals webinar. But it's important to note that a branded and organized customer portal is really, really important. We need to make sure that our service requests are organized, that they have the right values and fields on them, that we're asking the right questions, that we're formatting those fields in easy to read ways, and that they can fill those request types out and then be done with it, and then not have to worry about it. So we're going to talk about a few things that relate to the actual request type in just a second, but we're really going to spend more of our time in the agent experience, or the back end of this tool here. So as everyone can see my screen, what we're looking at here, and just to orient ourselves around the room, there is a new UI out with Atlassian for Jira software as well as Jira Service Management. The left-hand panel is still going to be your main navigational area when you're sitting in the actual project itself. In the middle, you're going to have more of your context for either different views that we're going to look for, queues, filters, the context of the actual request type itself, in this case, service management requests. And then when we get into the ticket view, you'll see more of a configuration panel that's really utilized more for agents than anything else. So a couple things to note here. There are some really interesting new features that Atlassian has released in the last year. I don't know if we've covered all of them on previous webinars, but let's talk about the first one. The first being a summary page. So this page can be enabled or not enabled depending on your preferences, but this gives a really nice dashboard-like view of what's going on within your particular service project. So you're going to get things like what has been completed in the last 7 days, what's been updated, created, what kinds of request types are we talking about here? What is the current team workload? Who is currently assigned to these different requests? What is the status overview? So we're looking right now at all the different workflow statuses, and on it goes. Priority breakdown, recent activity, quite a few different pieces of information that's available that you don't have to configure, that's just ready and available for you. So from an agent standpoint, they can easily look at this and see their team workload, or they can go to their own dashboard. But this is like an instant dashboard that's available, and it's in real time as well. So an important feature to note, and something that I would definitely take advantage of and educate my agent base on if they were utilizing the tool. Let's get into views. So when we're talking about the agent experience from the service management perspective, again, speed is the key, but also accuracy. So we want to give them as many tools as we can so that they know what they're looking at and they can find what they need quickly. So things like queue management, showing different queues and filters. This is going to be important to agents. They need to be able to find things quickly. The issue view, how an actual request looks like, what it looks like, the different SLAs. There's a nice panel that we'll see shortly that's going to tell them where they're sitting in that current SLA. Automation to help reduce some of that manual work effort. Approvals that are easy for the users to reach without having to constantly communicate with the agent base for that, so that they can focus on resolving tickets that might be more complex. And then internal versus external comments. So there is a nice feature also within these different tickets that allows your agents to speak directly to a customer, or they can speak to, let's say, a Jira developer if there happens to be some kind of a Jira software ticket that's spurred on via this initial service request. So let's talk about one of the first prongs of attack for an agent, other than the summary page, would be the views. So there are a couple of these are also newly released features in the last few months. There's a really nice board feature now that's available. So I can see all of the different requests right now within the different workflow statuses here at the top. And typically, you're probably going to see more than these 3 workflow statuses, depending on the workflows that you use. But this is just for example for the webinar. One nice thing about this is it's not just a static board. I can actually move things throughout the different columns and the different statuses if I wanted to. And sometimes I'll have a screen that pops up. Depending on the permissions, I might not be able to actually move something into a new status. Let's say service request might have, and these are also additional tools and kind of gates for the agents to allow them to not move something when they don't need to. So for an example, for a new laptop request, maybe I don't want to move this into from to do and do in progress until there's a couple of subtasks that are in a certain status or that they're completed. Those are the kinds of features that we can employ to make sure that agents are following the different processes that your company set up for these different request use cases. So I just wanted to show that board. There's also a calendar experience here. So I can also see any kind of requests that happen to be sitting in these calendars. If they were created, there's a couple of different things that we can do. We can filter by request type, status, assignee. And when one does appear in the calendar, you click on it, and then it will bring up in this same screen all the details for that particular request type. Okay, let's move on to queues. So the next really important piece for agents is figuring out where the work is and who's in charge of it. All kinds of different queues can be set up. So as on the far left here, we can see that there are queues for created in the last day. There are queues for due in 4 hours, things that are assigned specifically to me. That's often a queue that most agents are going to be sitting in or looking at on a daily basis. All open tickets, all of my tickets, et cetera, et cetera. You can also have VIP tickets. Really, your imagination is the limit here when it comes to queues for agents. But this gives them an immediate list of things that they know they need to complete and get to, and the different statuses. We can also edit these queues heavily, so we can add many more fields here, and we can rearrange how they're seen by the different agents as well. And then the agents themselves can then start filtering as they want to by request type, status, assignee, and more filters. So queue setup is really important. It goes hand in hand with giving agents more visual ways to track their work. Let's talk about the actual tickets now. So now we're here actually sitting in a service request ticket here, what we call a ticket or a task. And at the very top, we can see that this happens to be a system request, a service request. And we're going to see in the middle here, again, we have our navigational panel on the left. And on the far right, we're going to see more of that configuration panel that I mentioned earlier. But in the middle is really the meat of almost every kind of request that you're going to get, no matter the issue or work item type. We're going to see all the different context here. So we know that somebody went into the portal to do this. This is where this is coming from. You will also see if this is generated via email or other avenues as well. And so I'm going to see the different context here. Typically, there are going to be quite a few more fields here with additional values in it, depending on the type of request that you're receiving. In the middle of this, there's also a similar work items panel here. So I can see that if there is something that's related to this particular request, that it's going to show up in this panel here. And then I can take a look at this. Maybe there was a duplicate entry here, and we want to make sure that we're only working on the one and that we're closing out that initial one. That initial request, if there happens to be a duplication, because sometimes that happens. If you get distracted, you forget that you've submitted something and you go ahead and do it again anyway. But so this similar work item is going to help you tell if there are additional pieces going on that are relevant to this particular request. And if I'm just going to scroll down here, I just want to highlight a couple of things. So there is add an internal note here. So this can be an internal note for just other agents, or let's say escalated agent groups, or also, again, any stakeholders working in tickets outside of the system. Something we don't need to directly say to the customer would go into the add internal note, and then we can also reply to a customer as well. I just want to put a quick comment in here. So we're going to say we're on it, and I want to show the summary feature here. Also with JSM, as you may know, there are quite a few very interesting Atlassian intelligence features, including the summarized comments. Atlassian intelligence can be turned either on all the way on or all the way off. There really is no in between here. So depending on your security teams and your companies, you may not be able to employ it yet, or you may. If you can, clicking on the summarized comments piece is going to give you a nice list of everything that's going on within this ticket and the comments. And then you can copy and paste this and then throw it into an email or a chat, a Teams chat or a Slack to communicate with the different stakeholders. Also, you can do a number of additional things here when it comes to notifications, which we'll get to in just a second. On the far right here, we can also see the workflow status. So from an agent perspective, it's important to know, for them to know where this ticket happens to be sitting. Is it escalated, pending, et cetera? And all of these statuses can be designed bespoke to your particular use case need. Also underneath the workflow panel, we see the SLA panel here. So this is going to let me know that, okay, we're probably not going to make this time to first response here because it's March 20th when it was initially due. So we know that we are 320 hours past due, but typically you're going to see less than 4 hours depending on what the SLAs that you set up. And again, that's something that we would help you with as a vendor if you need implementation services for JSM. So this is going to put it front and center for the agent so they know where they're sitting from the SLA panel. And if we scroll down, we can see that there are some additional items here for our agents. So this is going to give me additional summary details, reporter details, and I can update the work items here if I wanted to. This is a new panel as well, the suggestions panel. We don't have to look at this if we don't want to. We can just contract it if we don't need it. And then again, going into the configuration panel, we have a couple of additional things here, like a knowledge base. So a knowledge base, again, as I think it's already gone through in the ITSM, in the JSM Fundamentals, is really important for your agents. And I see a lot of clients not fully utilizing this. You really want to help your agents as much as possible to walk through these different service requests, again, for faster time to market, faster time to response, and accuracy as well. These knowledge base articles are not, let's say, just for brand new agents, but it's for all agents, because you may have process updates. And when that's the case, you want to be able to communicate that to them quickly. A knowledge base article that's updated and maintained is a really great way to do that. You can give them all the steps and all of the even edge cases if there is something more complex or complicated that an agent has to work through. So a knowledge base article is really important here to be able to utilize if I need help getting through and to resolve this particular request type. And I can also see any related articles that are for this. I can see urgency, impact, etc. All of these fields can be completely configured to your needs as well. So moving through, let's talk about approvals here. So when it comes to service request management, again, accuracy and speed are really important. We want our user base who are not licensed, let's say they're not an agent, they're just, let's say in this case, it's going to be a new laptop request, for all approvers, whether that is a supervisor, manager, whoever that might be, VP, escalated approvals, all of that can be done right from the portal, and it can be done from the email that they receive as well, which is going to tie it in the notifications in just a second. So again, trying to make this as easy on our requesters as possible and their managers. We have this button here, and once I click on approve, then it's immediately going to approve it on the back end here. And if I were, in fact, yep, I didn't even have to refresh this. It already approved it, and now it moved it into the next status here. So JSM really tries to make it as easy on all of the populations working within the tool as possible. Let's move on to notifications. So notifications are also something that I don't see heavily utilized by a lot of clients, and they really should be, because you can put a lot of added value in the different notifications that you send out to your client. And if we scroll down here, we can see a list of typical responses that you get when a user or an external user or a customer will add a request in general. They're always going to get a notification saying, hey, we got your request, we're on it. But you can also do more than that. You can add things like, we got your request, we're on it. And also, by the way, here's the list of steps that this request will take until it's resolved, basically. And then you can also have URLs in there to say, while you're waiting, if you want to know more about this process, you can click on here. For additional resources, click on this URL. If you're interested in knowledge base articles or looking for more knowledge in terms of assets in general or etc., this is the place to do it. Notifications are really important, especially when things are approved. It's nice to get a notification or an email or a push notification letting you know that your request has been approved. Again, it cuts down on the need for a user to try to speak to an agent, which can slow them down if they're fielding lots of comments because there's confusion around the process. So utilize those notifications as much as you can to give your users and customers confidence that we understand the request that you've made and that we're on it, and these are the steps that it's going to follow. And that's really just the tip of the iceberg. You can really put anything in these comments that in these notifications that you want, and there's a lot of value to be added there as well. Let's talk about assets really quick. So assets within JSM are made of three things: objects, attributes and object schemas. The schemas are kind of like the matrix that are going to tell us, okay, these are the different things that we currently have in our database, in our configuration management database. And then the attributes are the points of interest and points of information for that particular object. So let's take a quick look at what the assets look like within this tool. And then we'll get back to the actual ticket and I'll show you how it works in real life. So these are the different schemas that we have here. And also it's important to note that there's a data manager, and we'll probably show that on one of the future webinars for this, or one of the asset specific webinars. But these are the different object schemas that are currently available in this demo site. I'm going to click on IT employee assets here. There are a couple of things to note. So there are really two and a half main schemas here: hardware, metadata, and then underneath metadata, there's supported hardware models. The hardware schema is really just showing us the different models that are available. Let me get to a laptop. Oh, these are the actual owned laptops. If I were to click on the model here, this is going to bring me into, okay, this is where this currently happens to be sitting. This is in a different area of that schema, and it's going to show me a couple of things like linked objects here. But I want to go back really quick and just show the list of all the different things that are available that are tied to people, places, locations, the different purchase dates, warranty expiration dates. Really, as much information as you want to pack in here, you certainly can. And then in the linked objects area, if I click on this little object graph here, it's a little squiggly, this is going to tell me what this particular asset or object is related to. So here I can see that this particular laptop is a MacBook Pro. That's the actual model of it, that it's in St. Louis, and that it's owned currently by Sarah Wright. So if I go back into the supported laptops, this is where we're going to see our actual models here. So we're going to take these values and we're going to put them in what we call a custom field and put them into a request type. And we'll see that in just a second. So when I have a field, that custom field in that request type, it's going to have a list of things that I can choose as a user. And then I can go ahead and choose this. And once I choose the model that I need, then many things start to happen. Subtasks can be created automatically for different areas of assignment. Let's say for a laptop, 4 different tasks need to happen. An automation rule can be written for that will create those 4 known tasks automatically so that your agents don't have to. And it can also be assigned to different groups if necessary as well. If we need to if we need something from procurement, if we need to order more inventory, then we can also do that in a subtask that's created automatically. Use API calls to order new equipment. All of this can be done automatically, reducing that manual load on all of your staff members that work within IT service management. And to find the actual items that these are tied to, that's where these matrices come into. You have your models. You might have some metadata here, like for a location. So you might have additional pieces of information. And then you have the actual list of the assets or objects themselves. And as you can see, there are some outbound references that we looked at previously. Let's take a look at what it looks like within an actual ticket itself. So in this actual ticket here, we can see that this is a new laptop request. And we can also see that this is a service request with approvals. There are usually 2 different kinds of work items, one just being a straight service request and one being a service request with approvals. Then in here within the context of the ticket itself, from an agent perspective, I can now click on this object graph and see what this is linked to. So this particular model is currently linked to the manufacturer, which is Apple, and that there are currently 5 active models in use by various employees and users. So this gives you also other linked work items if there happens to be additional tickets that are linked with this. And going a step further for lifecycle management, if you have a certain model that's always giving problems or one more than the other, let's say this particular model, you've had 20 different incident requests or 20 different users saying, hey, my computer's not working, then you can utilize automation to collect that information and send out reports to people saying, maybe we need to pick a different model because these other 2 are doing just fine. So that's just one example of proactive lifecycle management that assets can give you, and assets in partnership with automation can give you. And as an agent, it's important to know details about these different assets just in case a customer asks you about it. So having this information at your fingertips is a really nice way to get more information and to be able to easily digest it and be able to speak to it intelligently when you're talking to your different users. Okay, one more piece. Let's talk about automation in regards to assets. So in this particular automation rule, and just very quickly, automation rules are made of three things: triggers, conditions or components, and actions. So the trigger is when a work item is created here, I want to run this particular rule that I'm creating. And then the condition is the request type is going to equal it's a new laptop, basically. And then the actual action I want to take is I would like to edit the work item field for affected equipment. So I want this affected equipment to be showing on that particular ticket. So this is going to do that for me automatically. I don't have to take 5 minutes to go into another field, figure out how to edit it and put the right value in there. Automation is going to take care of that for me right off the bat. And we can also use automation to do things like add comments to our tickets, specialized comments. We can have a manually triggered automation rule. Before I were to go on this service request and click on this little lightning bolt here, I'm going to have a list of different automation rules that I can trigger manually. So let's say I need to triage something before I put a particular rule into place. I'm going to be able to do that manually and then click on this manually to then create whatever I need to, depending on the automation rule that I have. So from a service request standpoint, having solid request types with the right fields in them is the start of this. And then from the agent perspective, they get everything they need right in the middle of the screen, plus a few extra fields here, such as knowledge base articles, assignees, reporters, additional information that they may be asked by possibly a supervisor or a project admin. And then utilizing automation and assets, we can easily and quickly get the right pieces of information and assets and other service requests to our customer base quickly. And I think that takes care of every topic I wanted to cover today. Any questions?
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. That was great.
Thank you.
Really comprehensive overview of all of the different tools that you have within JSM to manage your service requests. And like Rachel said, make it easy for the agents, make it easy for the customers, and get things moving as quickly as possible. And you can see how all these tools are interconnected as well, which is really great. And we'll see some of those tools in our next two demos. So I'm going to focus on incident management first, and then we'll do a quick change management demo. So we'll see some of this as well, that there are what's called features in JSM. You can turn on some features related specifically to incident management and change management. We won't go into those into great detail, but we'll show you how we've got some of our processes built in our demo site to get you thinking about how you might manage your incidents and changes within JSM and how your current processes could be managed or even improved by these tools. So we mentioned the Help Center a little bit ago. This is where our customers can submit service requests or submit incident tickets. And I'm going to submit an incident ticket right now. So I am going to, I'm in the IT Service Desk portal. I'm going to scroll down to the Servers and Infrastructure portal group. And then I am going to select Report a System Problem. And here's my request type with all the fields that I'm going to fill out. So I'm going to start by just saying website is down and describe what happened and how it occurred is the next field. Rachel mentioned knowledge base articles in her presentation. You can see here, here's some suggested articles that we've configured to be served up based on specific keywords. So in this case, it's looking at the word website and the word down. You can see those are highlighted in bold in the names and the descriptions of these articles. And it's looking specifically at this summarize the problem field to determine which articles to serve up to me, the customer. And again, the idea here is ticket deflection, helping customers solve their own problems, maybe a step-by-step guide if somebody's forgotten a password for something like that. In this case, these articles aren't going to solve my problem, so I'm going to continue filling out this ticket. So my next, I'll just say the website will not load and produces an error message Our next field, Rachel mentioned assets and asset objects. This affected services field is an example of an asset field. It's a little bit different than an asset custom field that you might create in the custom fields area of Jira. But just know that this is actually looking at asset objects. And I'm going to scroll down to website and select that because the website is having a problem. I could add an attachment here if I need to, and I could also fill out the urgency or the impact on this ticket. These are not required fields. You notice there's not a red asterisk next to them, so I'm not going to fill those out. And I'm just going to click send. And here's what the ticket looks like to me, the customer, after I have submitted it. I can see the name that I put into that summary field. Here's the information on those other fields that I submitted. And we can see here that we've added a message here, website issues, view status page. I mentioned the status page product earlier. If we go over to our demo status page, we can see this announcement, website issues. The team's investigating this already. Some users are reporting issues with the website. We are currently investigating this. So a good way to communicate to people that, hey, we know about this problem. We're actively working on it, and it can cut down on multiple users submitting the same ticket if they're all experiencing the same problem. And like I mentioned, Atlassian uses that for their products as well. So that's pretty much it for the customer-facing side of this. I've submitted this incident. Let's go into the agent view of this ticket, and let's look at how this is going to display to the agent and what I can do with this once it's been submitted. So I'm just going to go into the back end of JSM. And here's that ticket. Rachel went through a lot of these fields on the service request example, and a lot of those fields are the same on our incidents, but a lot of them are different as well. And we're utilizing two different issue types in our project to achieve that. So service request is an issue type, incident is an issue type. So the goal here is, as an agent, we want to find the cause of this incident as quickly and efficiently as possible in order to resolve this issue in a timely manner. Some of this is going to look similar to you if you're working in Jira software currently, but some of it is a little bit different. So I mentioned affected services on the ticket itself. I selected the website. If I expand this, I can see some good information here. I can see that there are 46 open incidents on this service, which means there are 40 tickets that are not resolved that have the website selected in the affected services field. So this is going to help paint a bigger picture of this incident, promote communication across team members or possibly other teams, and then ultimately, draw urgency to this and say, okay, we've got 46 open tickets on this. Something is seriously wrong here. We need all hands on deck to resolve this. And maybe there's a much larger issue at hand. And if multiple tickets have been submitted and multiple people are working on this, maybe we can find the bigger picture cause of this as quickly as well. Some other information here, there is no description of this service, but you could certainly add that. And then we see this is a tier 1 service. This is going to play a bigger part in our change management demo coming up, but so keep that in mind when I move on to change management. If I scroll down a little bit, we also see changes on affected services and asset objects. So if I open this up, we'll see a list of change requests that have been submitted related to this same affected service, which again is the website. This is achieved by including the affected services field on not just our incident tickets, but also our change requests. And this is going to provide insight into any changes that might be happening either currently or have happened in the past, which could explain the potential cause of this incident request. Maybe somebody making a change to the website and it's caused it to be inaccessible for a little bit of time. We could hopefully find that from one of these change requests. And I can click on one of these and get all the details of that change request right here. If I scroll up to the top, this magnifying glass icon is the investigate deployments and add them as potential causes to this incident. So this is going to link to Bitbucket, which is our CI/CD pipeline. and it's going to show any recent code deployments that are related to this service, which is, again, the website. These deployments, again, might give us more insight into the incident request that was submitted, and maybe this is a possible cause. We can hover over, so we see the information about this deployment here, the number, deployment to production, the environment was production, when it happened, and if it was a success or a failure. I could hover over this and click Select as Potential Cause, and then click Add Potential Causes if I want to flag this on the incident as a potential cause. So again, this can help you connect the dots and figure out what is causing this incident or incidents. I am not going to select that right now just for our demo purposes, and we'll see a little bit more of Bitbucket here in just a second when I move on to change management. Scrolling down to the bottom, we've got our different ways of commenting, so we can comment to just agents or reply to our customer. We also have another button here, Inform Stakeholders, and the Stakeholders feature is part of the advanced ITSM set in JSM, and stakeholders can include individuals who need to be aware of an incident. Maybe they are owners of a service, but they're not actively going to be working on the ticket and looking for a resolution, etc. But they need to be aware of updates and the fact that the incident is occurring. You can add those individuals as stakeholders. And using this function is going to send an email to both when you do the inform stakeholders function here, it'll send an email to the agents working the ticket, as well as anyone who has been added to that stakeholder list. Over on the right-hand side, I won't go through all these fields, but one in particular, the major incident toggle. And you see if I hover over this, mark as major if this is a severe disruption requiring an urgent response. Doing this is going to add this ticket to a queue called major incidents, which is going to give us even more urgency added to this particular ticket. We talk a little bit about how to create queues in our fundamentals webinar if you want to check that out. And this major incident queue should come with your incident management feature set when you turn it on in JSM. And you can do some cool stuff with that. So maybe via automation, you send an email to a select group of responders, or maybe it's a very large group of responders saying, we have a major incident on our hands here. We need everybody available to help us solve this as quickly as possible and make sure that they get the proper notifications as quickly as possible. And that would fire automatically if you've configured that to do so as soon as this is marked as a major incident. So let's say this incident has been resolved and we're ready to close it out. We can head up to the top and add a post-incident review. And this is going to pull up a new screen where we can create a post-incident review issue type. This is another feature in JSM in the feature set. And we will have several form or fields that we need to fill out here. And it would create a new ticket that, again, has a workflow and all that kind of stuff. And we can make sure that all the relevant information is captured in that PIR, and it will be linked back to the incident itself. And I'm going to grab just a quick link here, and I'll show you an example of an existing PIR. If I can get this to paste. 1 second. Here's an existing PIR, and it's got some great information on it. So you can see the primary incident is this old incident ticket that we use in another example. We can see the status on that incident. And over here in the incident summary, I really like this section. So it's a quick summary of relevant information on that incident. So when it was created, when it was resolved, the time to resolution, the assignee, the affected services, and so on and so forth. And one other cool thing you can do is click on the timeline for this primary incident, and this will give you really a rundown of everything that's taken place from the history section on that ticket since it was created. So who created it and when? Did automation make any changes? When did the statuses change? And so on and so forth. So you can really get that complete picture of everything that happened on that incident from start to finish on your post-incident review ticket. I'll go back to my incident and we'll just talk through a couple of things really briefly, and then I am going to move on to change management because we've got about 15 minutes left. On your incidents, you can create chat channels. So we've got Slack connected here, Teams and Zoom, and you can create dedicated chat channels for this specific incident if you need to collaborate with several agents on your particular incident, and it would be titled something from the ticket so everybody knows what that chat channel is intended for, and then any agent would be able to join that conference call directly from the ticket, add notes, add additional responders to the call, and again, just another collaboration method to resolve our ticket as quickly as possible. So that's going to do it for our incident management demo. We're going to move on to change management, and I'm going to utilize a couple different tools here for our change management demo. We're going to use Jira software, we're going to use Jira Service Management, and we're going to use Bitbucket, automation, and a whole lot more. I'm going to start over in a Jira software project. This is just a sample Scrum project that we have spun up, and I am going to create a new ticket. And we are going to, we're going to say add Euro to payroll system. And this is basically a request to our development team to go into the payroll system and add the Euro as a selectable form of currency. Because it's a software ticket, we're not able to leverage the same type of forms that we have in Jira Service Management. We can't submit this through the portal or the help center, but we're going to see how this relates back to JSM here in just a little bit. So I've just filled out the summary, and we'll just keep this one pretty simple, and I'll click create. And then I'm going to go to view my ticket, and I'm just going to leave this open while I jump over to Bitbucket and make some changes to our payroll system. So in Bitbucket, I'll go to my repositories, and actually it's just listed in my recent repositories. So I'll go to payroll, and then I'm just going to find this document here, and I'll click edit. And I'm just going to make a quick change. I'm going to change this person's name to my name and select commit. And then in my commit message, I'm going to say updating per SSP, and I'm going to grab the issue key from the ticket, SSP 143. And I'm going to enter that into the commit message and select commit. And now when I jump over to the pipeline, you can see here's a representation of the change I made. If I go to the pipelines, we can see that this change is running. It's in progress, and we'll give this just a second to finish running, and then we will jump back over to our software ticket to see some other cool stuff that's happened behind the scenes while this is running. And this might take just a second. While we're waiting on this, if you do have any questions over anything Rachel presented or anything I've been presenting, do feel free to put those in the chat, and we will make sure we have a few minutes to go over those at the end of our session. It's taking just a bit longer than normal, and now we see that this change has been successful. So this has been deployed. I'm going to go back to my ticket. I'm going to refresh. And we can see a couple things have happened here. Over in our releases section, we see that one deployment has happened. That's the deployment that I just made in Bitbucket. That commit is linked to the ticket now, so we've got some connectivity there between the software story for me to actually do that work and the work itself. And then we see linked worked items is deployed by and this change request. That change request is also completed. So let's click into this change request and see what's going on with this. It might seem odd that a change request was created and completed without going through any kind of approval. But in this case, it's because this affected service, the payroll system, is a tier 3 service. So we are not requiring approvals on tier 3 services in our JSM instance here. So in this case, the deployment created the change ticket, linked it to the original software ticket, and went ahead and transitioned this to done. So we've got a record of the change, but we didn't require an approval with that. So let's go back to the software project, and I'll show one more example of this really quickly. We'll say update mobile app. I can spell mobile correctly. And the same thing, I'll just create this. And we'll view that. SSP 144. We'll go to repositories, and this time it's the mobile app. And I'll find that same file. I'll make another update. Just change this to me. Commit. And we'll say updated per SSP 144. Click commit. Then we'll go back to our pipeline. And we'll give this just a second to run, and we'll see what happens when we make an update to the mobile app as opposed to the payroll system. Okay, and we can see that this one is halted. So let's look at our ticket and figure out what's going on with that. So we'll go back to our story and refresh this. We can see that a change request has been created. We see that commit in the development field over here. But this time the change request is in an authorized status. So let's go open our change request and figure out what's going on. So this time the affected service is the mobile app, and this is a tier 1 service, and tier 1 services require approvals. So we can see we're waiting for one approval. I think Rachel showed this on the customer facing side, and this is what it's going to look like on the agent side. We need one person from this approver group to approve this ticket. In this case, I'm an approver, so I'll just approve this ticket. Going to move the ticket into awaiting implementation, and a record of that approval will be saved on the ticket down in the activity section. And then to finish out this process, I'll transition this to implementing. And now if I go back to Bitbucket, we can see the commit is now in progress again. So automation has seen that I transitioned that to implementing and then said, okay, go ahead with the commit and we can finish this out. And then once this is deployed, the change request is going to auto-complete like we saw earlier. And then this is now successful. So let's go to our change request. It's completed. And if I go back to our software ticket, all of that should be reflected here. We can see again, the change is completed. We see the release in here. That's the release we just did. And all of that is linked together via automation. So that's a great way to utilize all of the tools in your Atlassian ecosystem to manage your change management. This is just one example of change management. We know changes aren't always related to code deployments, but Atlassian has a really great feature set of change management tools. We see a lot of customers configure several different change request types and maybe like levels of changes. So standard change, normal change, emergency change. And those different change types can use different intake forms for one, different workflows, require approvals or not require approvals, or even have conditional scenarios when they need to require approvals, much like our change that was on the tier 1 service versus the tier 3 service. All of that is very customizable and very flexible for your change management processes. So hopefully this demo has shown you how JSM could help you manage your changes more effectively and more efficiently. All right, let's check the chat really quickly for any questions. I don't see any in here. I do want to call out, Kristen put a great note in here. I mentioned that JSM Bootcamp. We've got a discount code in here as well. So if you'd like to utilize that, it is in the chat. And I do highly recommend attending that boot camp. It is really, really comprehensive and really will get you going in the right direction as an admin for Jira Service Management.
Hey, Brad, there is actually one question here related to automated deployment now, and it's from Richard Irvin.
Let's see. If using automated deployment, can we specify the day time for it to deploy? I believe the answer is yes. I think via automation, you're going to be able to configure that. I have never personally configured that, but I see Rachel's shaking her head yes. So I'll take that as confirmation that that is indeed possible. Awesome. Great question, Richard. And Kristen's putting some more information in the chat, both of our email addresses, both of our LinkedIn addresses as well. So feel free to connect with us or send us if you have any other questions on any of this content, anything else JSM related, anything else Atlassian related. We're here to help you and answer your questions. And maybe we can talk about how Valiantys could help you in your Atlassian journey. So definitely feel free to connect with us. We'd love to hear from you. And then we've got this QR code here again. It will take you to our training page with more of our free webinars, those boot camps I mentioned, our workshops, our quick start courses. We've got a ton of different training options for you on all products in the Atlassian ecosystem. So definitely check us out there. And that's going to do it for today. Thanks again, everybody, for joining. Hope you enjoyed this webinar. Hope you got something valuable about it, or out of it, I should say. And thanks again. Have a great day.
Have a great day, everyone. Thanks, Brad. Bye-bye.